Few things crush a gardener's spirit faster than to stroll outside and see that Bambi has invited himself to dinner. And what's on the menu? Oh, all your favorite plants. Sprays, granulars, and motion sensors. They might keep him at bay for a minute. But what about a fence? How tall, how expensive, and how ugly are we willing to go to protect our plants? And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Garden Mixer.
We're always dancing to this imaginary music, listeners, but it comes in the end, so we don't look like the idiots that we are at the moment. She is Leslie Harrison. I am Marianne Wilburn, and you are listening to the Garden Mixer. And today, we're going to talk about deer, not Bambi, not the stuff of Disney film classics that in any way make you feel even a tiny bit of empathy for their...
Oh, that's the problem you have.
I have a major problem with Bambi, and people say Bambi all the time, including you.
Yeah, I just said it.
And
didn't know it was going to bother you. Would have emphasized it had I known.
What if Bambi did some tips and tricks in the garden? My head would explode.
You are a very sensitive child.
Wait, no. If there was an influencer named Bambi who did tips and tricks in the garden, then my head would explode.
And she played cornhole.
I have a large 10-foot pole shoved up.
Your cornhole?
My cornhole. Moving on, we are going to talk about deer. Deer in the garden. It has been my fate over the last 12 years in this garden. It was not my fate in the last 10 years in the previous garden. I watched my parents struggle with deer, albeit a different kind of deer, mule deer, when I was growing up, and I didn't understand it. It seemed to me that they were making much ado about nothing. So I am Karma's bitch, and we're here to talk about what we can do about them and really what is the final ultimate answer besides Armageddon. Anything to add to that, Leslie?
No, except that hang on until the very end of this episode because we have two fabulous plants to talk about in the segment called Damn, I Wish I'd Planted That. So, but first, what are we drinking?
This is an inspired cocktail. It is and actually, I'll let you tell the story because it's you who got us to this place. I was just going to grab a quick glass of wine.
Yeah, no, I wanted to take up Simone Leah or Gabor on Substack because she suggested that we pay homage to the fall colors of the Sarah Bernhardt peony, which was brought up by Tim Culkins and then commented on by Jonathan Bykowski. See, it takes a village of mixers to get all this stuff done. And she suggested mango just as long as we added drama, because this is Sarah Bernhardt, right? Apparently, the peony Sarah Bernhardt goes to wonderful colors in the fall. And
yeah, I've got a cut rate grapefruit, and I actually reamed that myself. And did you get fake juice?
No, but here's what I did. No, this is why my drinks are always pink. I don't buy simple syrup. I use the maraschino juice of a maraschino cherry, which I use regularly in a regular old fashioned. And I knew that would add to the sunset look of this fabulous. Cheers, Simone.
It is gorgeous. Mine's a little drab, but let me say, Simone, this is gorgeous. And this is probably the most bourbon I've tasted in the last few years. I actually had to break into a bourbon bottle I brought back from North Carolina for my husband, and he doesn't know about it yet.
You'll find out.
He'll find out. But this is really cool. It's a grapefruit bourbon sour.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Here's to Sarah Bernhardt. Here's to Tim, Jonathan, Simone, and all of our mixers. You can join them. All you got to do is sign up to be a paid subscriber on... Look how smoothly I went into that.
What a great segue. Booze and sign up.
That's right. And become one of our mixers because you can have fun just talking to people. We are watching that whole Substack chat take off and have a life of its own, which is really, really cool. And we just add in things here and there, ask questions. We have Substack Lives. We are going to have an office Christmas party in just a few days on the 9th of this month. That's next Tuesday. And that is fun. We're going to be talking about indoor decorations. So if you were thinking this weekend, all right, I'm going to and really think about what my property can offer, wait until Tuesday and we'll talk about a few that you might not have thought about.
You might have started by then, but we could make it better. Marianne always has fabulous ideas. I might be able to come up with a few. Hey, clear up corner. We did make a few boo-boos, mostly me. Again, here we go.
Yep. Okay.
I sort of had it in my brain that Marianne didn't like to talk about compost, but that's not true at all, is it?
No, it's not. And actually, I was listening to the last episode and going, you keep maligning me on this compost thing. What is up with that? I love compost. I have shamed people for not having a compost pile. And it was really just about the loamy that you got this in your head. And it's not that I don't like the loamy. I don't have one. You do. And listeners, if you have one, you may love it. It's for me, I don't like to do something unnaturally that can be done naturally without having to buy anything. And in
Yeah.
this case, activators and the Lomi itself. But that doesn't mean that it's not a great idea for people in a certain circumstance. And Leslie is in a townhome. She has assured me faithfully that the HOA will come out and find her if she actually dares to compost and has a compost pile. And fair enough. Okay, I absolve you with the Lomi, and that's great for the rest of you. Just put a pile in the backyard somewhere
No,
and
no, sorry,
and
sorry.
enjoy
You
it.
got this all wrong. I apologize because I thought you didn't like to talk about compost. Now that I find out that I was wrong, we will, listeners be damned. We will be having an entire episode on compost. I have spoken. Okay.
Our
My next
listeners want to
mistake,
hear about compost.
I know
Okay.
they do. My next mistake was that we did an entire, damn, I wish I had planted that on a hydrangea that I don't grow. But Marianne does. So we're half truthful. She grows the bluebird. When we had Erin on for the last, this makes me giggle because I was so sure that I had it right the first time. No, I grow and Erin wants something called blue bunny. And I do grow that. It is not an arborescens of serrata or anything like it. It's called involucrata. I don't know what that means. Do you?
Something about involucral bracts, maybe? It has a very different
Bud.
look to the bud. It looks like a peony bud.
Yeah.
And because I didn't realize that you were talking about blue bunny, and I haven't grown blue
Neither
bunny,
did
but
I.
seeing pictures, yeah, now seeing pictures of it, going, oh yeah, that's a very different animal. However, all the data that I put out there on Bluebird and talked about a word of garden merit and all of that is still fully legit. I grow Bluebird, love Bluebird. It is a serrata, and it's a wonderful plant. So now you've got two wonderful hydrangeas.
Bluebird, blue bunny. That's just me mixing up stuff on the garden mixer. So apropos.
Well, honestly, Leslie, I can't say that I'm fully on board with Blue Bunny. I think I need to see it in the flesh. I'm just sort of, yes, I know. I looked at the pictures you sent. I looked at the pictures Aaron sent, and I went, okay, it's nice. That's good. I would try that. I don't know that I'm desperate to get a hold of it. Like you two seem to be walking around looking, for surreptitious ways that you can
Go to jail by
go to jail.
by propagating it illegally.
That's right. But
No, it just makes it so much better. It's like when you want the Malamars and they've stopped sending the Malamars to the market because they might melt. And then when they come back in the fall and you're so excited, you don't know
what
about.
the hell is a Malamar?
Oh God, she doesn't, it's a Nabisco cookie with marshmallow and real
Oh, I
chocolate
do not
covering.
know what that is. Hate marshmallows.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe not.
Yes. So last time we checked in with Erin Shannon, the impatient gardener, and I was so busy self-flagellating on all of the things that I had not done that I had promised to do seed-wise that I completely forgot about a really great win on the seed department. Something I had planned to do, told you guys I would do, and I did it, and it turned out great. And that was Nicotiana. I grew Nicotiana from seed, and not only did it do terrific, I ended up growing two different ones. I thought what I had been told was Starlight Dancer, so I got seeds from that, and then I went back and looked at my notes and found that it was Nicotiana, a lot of lime green that Aaron loved. So I went back, got seeds for that, started that too. And it turns out that I am on the Starlight Dancer train.
Oh,
I'm on the Starlight Dancer Express. I am growing Starlight Dancer for the rest of my life.
oh,
The Starlight Dancer was blooming through frost going into November and just looking tremendous and very tall, very stately, very elegant. Um, Erin, I'm not saying that a lot of lime green is vulgar in any way. I'm just saying that Starlight Dancer is
and
elegant.
you know she's
Okay?
listening. And she knows what
So there we
Malamars
go.
are. I'm just going to put that out there. We're going to be talking about deer fences in just a moment, but I think we've cleared up everything. It's so crystal clear.
So, this deer fence topic came about because of my continuing hell with deer here at Old Meadow. And because I know a lot of people have deer problems, but mostly because I was at a conference back in July with a lot of really wonderful gardeners. And I sat down to dinner with a new one, a horticulturist named Sandra Schaller, who gardens at Wave Hill in New York. And she also has her own property that she's had for 20 years. And somehow the subject of deer came up, and her face just glowed. It was almost lit up. I am not kidding, not exaggerating. And she said she had just put in a deer fence last year and it was life-changing. She couldn't even express how changed things were and how she was now gardening in a different garden. And this is a woman who has been gardening at Wave Hill for 6 years, which is fully fenced and has been since the 70s, I think. And so she sees the difference between what is possible and what is not possible. And what is not possible is pretty much anything in a garden with deer.
Really?
And so I talked to her about that and came back thinking again one more time about a deer fence, which I had previously put out of my head. And from that, I ended up doing an article for the Wall Street Journal on deer fencing back in September and got to go dig deep into quotes and materials and design and all sorts of things. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And also, we're going to give options because I realize that not everybody has a fence or can have a fence. And what does it mean? I know that you had a fence in your Charlottesville garden.
In the big garden?
What about your garden in Connecticut? Did you have one there? Did you have deer?
Yeah, I did have deer, and I was less than a mile from the main shopping street of Greenwich, Connecticut. Literally, one time there was a headline that one of these deer, and we just have so many, and this was 25 years ago, had gone through the plate glass window of the local Chinese restaurant. I mean, they're just everywhere. So I did have to do something about deer there. I didn't have a fence. When we're all done talking about fences, we're going to give you some really good ideas on what to do if you can't have a fence. And I know that some of you are already doing things, but here's the story. It's great to have a lot of weapons in your arsenal because they do actually become accustomed to what you might be trying and you might need new ideas. So wait for it. But let's do the fence first. When I moved into my Charlottesville house, there was nothing growing that was colorful at all. It was all green, mostly ivy. Lots of English, some poison. And then I realized, oh, wait, we have ditch lilies. We have the Hemerocallis fulva down by what was going to be a stream, but at that moment was only a mosquito farm puddle sort of thing. And so I'm like, oh, great. We're going to have 2 weeks worth of orange. This is terrific. Love orange in the garden. I do not, as you know, if you're a regular listener.
I do.
Yes, she does, which is why this is a great podcast. One of the reasons. Cheers. And by the way, I'm going to have to remove the rosemary because I'm about to poke my eye
It
out.
is going up my nose a
I know.
little, I have to say. I love the fragrance every time I take a sip, but it is, clearing out my nasal passages
So
at the same time.
I just chucked it behind the bedside table of the guest room, which will be occupied this weekend. I wonder if I retrieve it or if my guest says, hey, it was so nice that the
That's a
room
nice
smelled
touch.
like rosemary on the floor behind the table. Anyway, I got there, and instead of 2 weeks of orange from those silly ditch lilies, I had 2 days. And I said, okay, I get it. We have deer. And I was so busy trying to establish my business and moving into a house and just like, where do I even, go to the market? It's, how it is when you first move. So sure
Yeah.
enough, very clear. And as soon as I could, I got a guy over and we got a deer fence up. There were some good things and bad
Oh,
things about
just
that.
like that.
Okay.
Just pay the fellow and damn his impudence.
It
Yes.
was within the month. Well, I don't have 11 acres or whatever bloody hell spread you
It's
have.
true.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
this is
true.
not even an acre.
11-ish.
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 This was
Or
a
was it
point
10-ish?
point eight, very, very manageable and small. I did have to make it good looking. I didn't do the whole thing. We'll talk about that in a minute, but yes, it was up toot sweet.
Yeah, and you were happy from that point on.
So happy from that point on, except for all the moments when it wasn't working because, they jumped over it, through it, or went around it. Uh,
So, I have to I visited your property in Charlottesville a couple times, and it was very beautiful. The garden was great.
Thank you, I miss it.
You're welcome. I remember that time, back when you gardened, and the
Now I just play golf and drink
and
cocktails, play a little mahjong.
but I didn't recognize that there was a deer fence there. So, how did you manage to stop them from going sort of down your driveway and along your path and down into the garden proper? Was there a fence there that I did not see? Because
No.
you really hit it well.
It was a calculated risk, and most of them did not go back there. I would catch the occasional one back there. So, let's see, it was rectangular property, probably about 100 yards of street frontage, which was not put behind a deer fence. So, it's a low stone wall and lots of gardens and a driveway. Oh, and some hedging. So, if they were ballsy enough to walk right up to the front door and take a left, or if they were able to jump through the hedge, which they really don't love to do because it was very difficult to see where they might land. I had
Yeah.
very few of them. So it was I mean, this is just me gender profiling, but I think it was young teenage males who were like, I'll go in there and I will eat to my heart's content.
That's right. I think there's girls in there.
And I would have to chase them out, and Jeff would get very excited, like, they could turn around and run towards you when you do that sort of thing. The trouble was
You know that young males have, like, little tiny nubby horns, so you could have actually seen
I
if they
was
were males
too
or
angry
females,
to
right?
notice that. I don't know what they were,
Oh,
but they
you
were
see,
stupid and
yeah,
I hated
alright.
them. So that's how they could get in there, but they didn't often get in there, and everything changed. Hostas, hydrangeas, joy. Yes, that woman's glow, the woman that you interviewed.
Asta, hydrangea, joy.
It's all it's
Yep.
you get it, and otherwise,
Yeah.
you're, like, limited to, Perovskia or I don't even know what. So, yeah, it's
I don't
extremely
even know if
limiting.
you're limited to that anymore. Honest to God, there's so many things that they're not supposed to eat that they eat
Yeah.
when they're hungry, and moreover, things that I am growing that I have a very good friend who's down in Ellicott City, part of a garden group that I belong to. He is in a subdivision, and many of the things that I consider, I don't know, deer proof, but oh, they're totally good. They're not going to touch them. He has them absolutely eaten to the ground. And so you just never know. It really depends on your deer.
If you want some guidelines, if you feel like you have maybe normal and not, I don't know, lunatic deer in your vicinity, one good place to figure out what you might be able to plant is a good website called, it's a database, and just Google Rutgers University deer, and they have things listed, and you can also put a search engine type situation like, well, what about Perovskia? That should be an A. You should be able to plant that. But it sounds like in Ellicott City, they haven't gotten the memo.
Yeah, they have them A through D. And I realize there are listeners out there who are going, "Pugh, the Rutgers list means nothing to me." But if you are a very beginning gardener and you just need a place to start,
Oh,
like
yeah.
what is definitely deer candy that's going to be taken out if you have deer, it's a good place to start. But I recognize there's a lot of anger out there. This article that I wrote, I've written a few articles for the Wall Street Journal, and you get a fair amount of comments, but nothing amazing because it's about gardening stuff and nobody's really incensed, right? There's no political angle. So you write about deer and suddenly there's 95 comments because people are angry, they're upset.
Oh,
It is an emotional surge to go out into the garden in the morning and have your coffee and be excited to see the dew on the grass and the peonies opening up, and to find that not only the peony buds are gone, but the evergreen shrub that forms anchor in your garden is nibbled down and is not going to recover well. And I mean, there's there are a lot of F words running through this valley over the last few years, and I'm not meaning fudge either. I'm meaning like the serious one. It's happening. And this winter for me was the final. It was sort of the final. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. It's causing me so much stress. Um, and we're either going to, I'm going to have to bring this down because listeners, my garden is,
Huge.
I do garden on about 10-ish. It is huge. And I garden on about 10-ish acres, meaning that I have a lot of property here and that I'm managing, but I actually cultivate about 2-acre garden. But that's still
A
huge.
lot. It's so much.
It is a lot. So I can't spray it everything all the time. And you find that spraying something isn't necessarily going to stop them from touching it. And it's just going to be a numbers game. We put in, I guess about 6-7 years ago, we put in a picket fence that's 6 foot high with the pickets about an inch apart from each other. So it wasn't a full privacy fence. And that went around the 40 by 60 of my vegetable garden. That has my greenhouse in it, has raised beds, it has some trial beds. And that way I had a place that I knew that they couldn't get into. Because they can't see easily between those slats to see where they're going to land, I have been very fortunate that they have not tried to jump it. Now, I knew that if they did try and jump that fence, I would just build it up with some extra wire and extra posts, and or actually, I have a very decorative way of doing it. I'm going to use all of the whiskey barrel. What are those round things? The metal round things,
I feel like
the
the bands
straps
that
that go
the
around the whiskey
straps
barrel.
that
Yeah.
hold the pieces of wood together. I don't know if there's a name.
Yeah, I have so many of those circles, and I thought, "Ooh, I'm gonna decoratively set those along the top on that top rail, and it'll be sorta cool, and it'll also keep the deer from coming in because 'cause it'll add another foot and a half to that fence." But I haven't had to do that yet, and
Oh, okay.
they have gotten into the garden, and that was this winter they got in because they basically pushed through the gate, until the gate hinges gave way, not the hinges, but the latch, because it was getting a little rotten. And that was my moment of can't do this anymore. So we're going to have to reinforce this. And this is going to be the garden. And the rest of it is, I may even have to like bulldoze because I don't think I can walk through it every day and not feel
Oh,
sad.
that is so sad.
So I know it is, but I watched my mother being driven insane by this up until the time that my dad and I, maybe 25 years later, put in a deer fence around her front garden, and dad and I stood on the porch. My mom was standing there. We had this wonderful project over the week. And dad said, we should have done this 20 years ago.
Oh, man.
And my mother, I could see her just like everything in her. I'm going to stab him in the heart. It's going to go through him. There's going to be a lot of blood. Um, this stuff, gardening is tough. It is a full contact sport. It takes all your energy. It takes mental acuity. It takes time. You sacrifice that for a result. You don't know exactly what that result's going to be, but you hope that overall it's going to be good. And then something that is completely out of your control comes in and undoes all that work or makes it worse. If a deer nibbles down, say, a arborvitae, or arborvitae, that arborvitae. What is it?
Most people say arborvitae.
Arborvitae, thank you. It nibbles something like that down, it's not going to come back the way you think it's going to come back.
No.
And consequently, you got to dig it out. And so now you're in for more work. And so the level of F-wordedness going on in the garden grows. So that's where I was this winter. And then I met Sandra, and her sort of that glow, that joy you're talking about, really pushed me because I've got a lot of friends who say, you need a deer fence. And I go, oh, really? Do you think that's what I need? A deer fence? Okay.
Can you whip out your checkbook and make that happen? Let's go.
Yeah, let me just find that checkbook. Okay. you know, um, and I've had, because I'm in a valley, I have a stream going through. And that means I have 2 stream crossings, which makes it a little bit more difficult, and it also makes it mean that it's gonna have to be checked more regularly, all of those perimeters. So I've just sort of put it down to nothing. So that's where I was, and I came back home and I said, "Right, here's the deal. I really wanna get a quote for a deer fence properly, and I'm gonna look into it and all of this." And Michael said, "Oh, I don't know about that." And then we went out to England. Michael walked through the garden of Anne and Charles Wareham, the Vedu, like that in Wales. And he saw Charles's huge deer fences around, and he saw what they had done in the same type of space that we have. And he went, "Oh, I see what you're trying to do." And all of the trees we have lost and all of the hedges that have been eaten. I'm not trying to make the Vedu, but just, a shrub here and there would be great. So he said, okay. And so we started the process of doing this quote. So that's a very long-winded answer to where I got to the point of we're putting in a deer fence. Should we talk specs about deer
Yeah,
fences?
but before we go on to specs, could we just ask, because I'm really selfish. I cannot wait to see your garden with a deer fence. So where do you stand now? Last time I checked in with you, you were clearing and you felt kind of guilty because there was a lot of, biomass that was going bye-bye. But think of all the biomass
Yeah.
that you could grow. What's the deal now? Have they put in posts? Where do you stand?
It is scheduled for the very last part of November. So hopefully by the time this drops, they will be putting the posts in and we'll be beginning. And we're doing a high tensile wire that's actually black. It's been powder coated with black so that it sort of blends in,
Yep.
especially up near the road where it's a little bit more visible. The only problem with that is that deer don't see it
Yeah.
and they can crash into it. So it has to be constructed really well until they've been battered a few times. And quite honestly, I don't really care if they're battered a few times. I'd like to see a little bit of blood.
But if it's like mine, and it might be a completely different animal, mine was not strong enough to hold up to the battering, whether it was intentional or whether they could see what they wanted and wanted to come in. Couple times a month every winter, just walk the perimeter. Now, this is point 0.8 acre.
Mhm.
This was not a big walk, but with wire, with a ladder to fix what had been going wrong. And it was always a problem down where the stream exited. You have both ends of that stream. My stream, which is so tiny, was so tiny, started at a spring house. So I only had the one bit. And they did a good job of designing it so that they couldn't, if I suppose if deer like limbo, they could come under it, but I don't think deer would. They didn't seem inspired to do that.
Well, you might not think so, but Sandra said that if she had not seen that happen, she would not have believed it. She
Wow.
watched a deer get down on its haunches and sort of skinny through underneath a part in the fence. Now, they didn't have high tensile wire. They put in the poly
That's what I had.
that is a little bit more flexible.
Yep.
And so that's what they got under, but she she woke up one morning and there was a doe in the yard and she thought that's not actually physically possible. You can't get over that fence. And she went out, startled it, and it went back for the area that
Okay.
it had gone under and she said, "I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it." So yeah,
Yeah.
they're smart. They figure out, I mean, they need food and sex, and they'll do anything to get it.
Tell me about this. What did you find out when you did your investigations for the article, about cost, just general costs? I know you threw some numbers in there.
I did. So for Sandra, they were on they're actually on a 2-acre property and they chose to fence only the back acre. Although after a year of bliss and joy, they're going to be putting in the front part too, and they're not in
Wow.
an HOA, so it's okay. And it was such a remarkable difference that even their neighbors noticed that something was very different in their garden and it was looking, and also you're not just seeing the plants are looking better, you're also seeing a renewed sort of the gardener phoenix rising from the ashes of despair and starting to garden their property again, right?
Yeah.
Because your efforts aren't going to waste. And so they're doing the front again. And on that back part, they spent about $2,000 on that to do the 8-foot high. It, I've had it in the article, and I'll link to the article now. It's a Wall Street Journal article, so it is paywalled. So if you're Wall Street Journal subscribers, you can get it. If not, we're just going to have to say as much about it as we can here. But the it was a polyethylene fence, and it's put on black posts, and she said that if the sun isn't directly shining on it, she can't see it. And I know I couldn't see yours. You had so much growing up around it.
Not even in winter
Yeah.
could you see it. It just disappeared into the woods, and, I mean, we're talking about suburbia, point 0.8 acres. It's just a double suburban lot. You really had to look for it. I was so impressed. It's very cool.
But not everybody wants an 8-foot fence to start with, and the fact is that to be safe, you need like 8 to 10 feet sometimes. If you're out in the middle of the countryside, like nothing around you, even if you're an HOA, um, deer will come and jump that fence. They'll be running at breakneck speed, and they can jump a 10-foot fence. They really can do that. They can jump high and they can jump far, but they can't do both at the same time. So that can help you when you're trying to decide what you're going to do for your garden. So if you have to have that lower, like in my mother's garden at 6 foot, actually, in my mother's garden, we did 5.5 foot because it was all that we could get at the time. And my dad was very frugal. And so that was as tall as he could get.
Was it opaque so they couldn't?
Yeah, it was tall enough that they couldn't see over it. So I
Ah,
would say it was about 5.5 feet. I think that was about right. And it was the pickets were very close to one another. Now, since that time, and it's been in almost 20 years now, but since that time, they figured out, okay, we can jump over this. It's safe on the other side. But before
oh,
that, they couldn't see through it, and so we just extended it up with wire. And I say we, but it was my brother.
okay. Alright. Thank you,
My
brother.
brother went in and did that. Thank you, brother.
That's awesome.
So use this whole jump far, jump high to your advantage by putting some obstacles in their way, making it harder for them to see. So if you're putting up, if you've just got a bunch of grass and then some prize hostas, and you put in a fence that's 6 feet tall and you're in the middle of a field, they are going to jump that.
No
And
good.
those hostas are going to die. I had somebody write in on the comments on that oh no, I'm sorry. They sent me an email. People get so fired up about deer, where if you put a secondary obstacle along the perimeter of the fence that's about 3 feet out, they won't jump it. Now, this gentleman used tomato cages. I'm not willing to do that in a small garden because I want that real estate and I don't want tomato cages sitting around all year with vines growing through them. But that worked for him absolutely. They don't want to jump over that because they can't land easily. So if you're using raised beds, if you're using hedges, if you're using rocks, uneven ground, all these different things can stop them from taking that leap.
Can I tell you what I used one time?
Oh, sure.
I believe the term used maybe in, I don't know, various guerrilla warfare tactics in Southeast Asia might have been punji sticks. I'll have to look that up. But I used so there was a place where they could get
Where do
around it.
you even know this? Were you in Vietnam?
Too many war movies,
Wow, it's a
mostly
whole nother part of
bad
you that I do not know.
bad ones with John Wayne, where I use stakes, like tomato stakes, bamboo stakes, because there was this spot where they can absolutely see that there's nothing, that they won't land on except for ivy, a part that I hadn't gotten rid of yet, and I hadn't planted anything good there. And so I just put, probably 30 stakes into the ground, just, like, sticking up. So if
Oh,
they were to land.
those kind of steaks. Oh, now,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, the ones that, like, poison you and then you die of sepsis 2 days later.
Only I
Yeah.
didn't do that part. I just took them from the truck and put them into the ground, and
Oh, I don't care if they die.
that seemed to work. Bambi, Bambi, Bambi. I just wanna say a note about design, we'll go into this a little bit, but there is something that you can do if you are afraid, like, "Oh, no, they're saying you can't see it." You will be able to see it on my property if you don't have a property that's, heavily wooded like mine was. Lots of hills and dales. Mine did disappear, but if you're in the middle of a grass field, yeah, it can be seen. Um, or maybe parts of it can be seen. And I did not want that black fence along the front of my property, which is why I occasionally had to do battle with the ones who found their way in. I did have a decorative fence on one side where I didn't want them to come in. And then I built kind of a jury rigged sort of what did I use? A tarp, just like you it was such a skinny little place, and they would just walk down there. I'm like, "Okay, I'll just put up these hooks, and you can't come in here." It was like a homemade gate. I am so excited. I'm actually going back to my old garden tomorrow. I want to take some photographs of some fabulous plants that I have chosen to use as my segment of Damn, I Wish I'd Planted That. And because damn, I wish I had planted most anything here at this tiny garden, I'm like, oh, I don't grow that anymore, but I really know where it grows well. And so I'm going back to my
You hope
garden.
you know it. Hopefully, it's still there.
I know. Oh, no.
Right?
I would hope
Yeah.
so. There's some great stuff over there.
Well, I mean, you don't have to have a fence. You can make a decorative panels.
Yes.
Remember, you can play a little bit. You can create like a small deck in a corner of your garden or a small platform. We have a platform in the vegetable garden. I love it. It's just a little bit like a foot and a half off the ground. It's a gorgeous place to gather. The ground would be just as good, but it's not. It's this platform. Well, if that was in the corner of my last garden, I could have put a backdrop to that would act as a corner for a fence that would be maybe the welded metal squares on a framework. And that would be part of it. And then maybe my shed is next to it. So I can sort of just connect those two with a little bit of fence. You can get smart about this. And again, even as I'm saying these words, I'm hearing so many people out of my garden clubs, especially in the DC area, going, well, let me tell you about my dear Marianne. And I'm going, yeah, I know it's bad, but we're just trying to throw ideas out there. And for me, I never thought that I would be putting a deer fence in here. I just did not think it was possible to do because of the stream crossings, because we have this lovely valley. I don't want to ruin it. And the deer fence ideas that I was being given were, just protect the plants. Well, my property is not just about the plants. It's about this valley, and I'm a steward of this valley, and not just the plants. And so I didn't want to ruin it. So things that seemed impossible are actually possible, or they should be possible. We'll see how it goes. And I also managed to get rid of all of that invasive brush that was coming up to the encroaching on the house, let's say.
Bonus.
Yeah, bonus. So those are some of the ways that you can look at doing it. We are spending a lot of money on this fence. I am not going to lie to you. We are in the double digits. And in fact, and actually, you know what? I'm going to be completely honest about this because I don't like hedging around about money. Um, well, no, I still am going to hedge. I am spending the same amount of money on this fence as I spent on my new Subaru Forester back in 2012, which is why I'm going to still be driving that Subaru Forester for the next 3 years at least. So,
It's a great little car.
so this is a significant outlay for us. This decision was not taken lightly. And we're looking at it in a lot of different ways. It's also going to fence in the dogs. It's also going to fence out deer that we have a really serious tick problem in this area. And deer host the nymphal stage of the deer tick. Aptly named.
Yes.
And I've had Lyme disease. In fact, I have chronic Lyme disease. It just stays down in my bones and comes up when it feels like it. And so it's important. Our dogs have, all three of them had Lyme disease. So that's part of the idea of getting rid of it. It's not going to stop the bears coming through because they will just climb the fence. It's not going to stop foxes who will get through it. It will not stop groundhogs who would go under it, but badger will. It won't stop bunnies. It's not as if we will be pest free after this. It's still going to be the Wild West out here, or the Wild East, but it's going to make a significant change. And yes, I'm going to have to live with that 1978 brown tub.
I'm confused.
Oh, I've just got the world's ugliest bathroom ever. And I was really hoping to renovate it this year.
Oh,
And we went deer fence.
okay. Well, you gotta make your choices. Back to the disease for a minute. You've probably heard me mention that I've had Lyme disease twice too. And then we interviewed Bree Arthur, who is
Mm.
a friend of ours who gardens down in North Carolina, who has alpha-gal disease. And I know a lot of people around here in Charlottesville have had it. And in fact, um, this is gonna sound terrible, but I belong to a country club. They have had to change their menu, make it available because they have so many people who have that disease that they're actually paying attention to that sizable percentage of people in this area who come to eat, at the same place time after time, and they're paying attention to what they can eat. Alpha-gal is serious, and these deer are hosting these ticks, that have these diseases that they can share with you.
Just because you've had Lyme disease doesn't mean you can't get alpha gal or one of the numerous diseases that come through. And getting rid of the deer does not eliminate your risk
Oh,
for
no.
getting Lyme disease.
No.
In fact, I got Lyme disease out in California at Point Reyes from a tick there, but it definitely brings down those odds a
Yeah.
little bit. So that's just, it's a bit of a bonus. And I've got 3 dogs, so but keeping them in a fence is pretty cool as well without having to do the radio collar on little Badger every morning. So there you go. There's lots of good reasons. But we should actually if we've hit all of the reasons of why to have a fence and thinking about fence and options for fences, we should probably talk about what about when you really can't put a fence in? Whether that's financial or HOA, and there are other ways. And my garden again is very big. And so trying to corral it all in a fence is going to be more expensive than it would be if I was just doing 2 acres and ruining the views of this valley and ruining the valley with that fence. I'm having to go all the way around and do about 5 or 6 acres. If I was on a smaller plot and I could and it was gonna cost a lot of money to put a fence in, I would probably be doing other things, and getting my bathroom renovated. So what are they, Leslie?
So I would love to address things that are just you can't do a deer fence because there are so many that you can do. My first go as that Greenwich gardener who, couldn't get a fence and had yeah, the deer, down on Greenwich Avenue. Well, should I go to Saks Fifth Avenue or should I go see what Leslie has in her garden tonight? And so I just made homemade spray, 409 bottle with an egg, sitting in your potting shed for a month. That's going to make a really bad smell. And then you can add all kinds of things. There's so many recipes that you can use. Oh, by the way, strain the egg because the 409 bottle will not produce that thing that you're trying to get out there. Strain the egg, add Tabasco, add, Dawn dishwasher or whatever might keep it, sticky on those leaves. Add nutmeg or cinnamon because actually we kinda like those and deer don't. So do whatever concoction you can to make it so that you don't have to buy it every time. Keep it in your potting shed. Here's a really good tip. Don't spray your garden until you're about 10 minutes away from getting that shower anyway. Also, don't spray that garden if you're about to have people for cocktails over in that garden. The smell will dissipate. It'll take about 30, 40 minutes, so just be aware. And then there are all kinds of,
Mm.
commercial things that you can do, right?
I've often thought it's funny when I'm spraying for deer, because I spray a lot, of the idea of having a garden for fragrance. You see them advertise like, do your, plant this and plant that, and you've got your brugmansia and your winter jasmine and your this and your that and your other. Well, everything just smells of freaking mint or freaking cloves with a little bit of egg and sulfur mixed in. So forget about your fragrance garden. You ain't gonna have it when you got deer if you have to spray. It's just it's fairly pointless. It's one of those things that would make me angry, that would make my head explode. White hot sheets of flame going up. And the sprays that we get, I find you can't just spray once every 10 days like they say you can.
No,
That is not true.
especially if it
If you
rains.
have some serious deer candy, particularly hosta, roses, deer candy, come on, daylilies, give me some deer
Hydrangea,
candy. Hydrangea.
those are the
Yeah,
worst.
these type of plants that they just go beep 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 beep, and they're on. You've gotta be spraying those things every couple days. I'm sorry, 10 days just is not it. And in the summer, I remember we'd have these huge downpours in the summer. And all I can think instead of, "Oh, look at the rain," is, "Oh my gosh, there goes the deer spray. I'm gonna have to spray tonight." But what happens if it's, like, raining from 9 o'clock till midnight, and then it's gonna be dry?
You're gonna lose some plants.
Yeah, you're gonna lose some plants because the deer aren't like, "Oh, it's raining tonight, I guess we'll stay in."
Yeah.
Uh-uh. So, yeah, those are the problems with deer spray.
A couple of points on that. It does depend on the deer pressure that you have. Having gardened 50
Mhm.
separate gardens in Charlottesville at once, there were some places where it was just virulent, and the client would be like, "Can you come every day to spray?" And we'd be like, "No." And we gave her the spray, and she would she wouldn't do it. So, yeah,
No, of course she wouldn't, she was smart.
she
Yeah,
lost a ton of plants.
get a minion for that.
There are other places where it's light and occasional. And so the other thing that I wanted to say is that when you go to spray, if you're gonna take the time to spray it well, spray it on a not so windy day if you can, and spray the underside of the leaves. So a handheld sprayer, instead of me just with my 409 bottle getting carpal tunnel syndrome, get a sprayer that you can, they cost, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks at your local Southern States or feed store or whatever, probably a big box store. And they're probably sold with the idea that you're gonna put chemicals in them. These are chemicals. There's nothing that can hurt a plant that you're putting in there. It's just bad smells to make your deer think that another restaurant down the street might be better than this one. But do spray the underside of leaves because that can give you an extra day or 2 possibly.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, what's the point of that? Because they'll eat it regardless, but okay, it give hangs on the leaf a little bit
Light
longer.
rain, it could get through.
Okay, alrighty, and I would actually go one step further with the sprayer. I would get a backpack sprayer, and I say
Yeah.
I would, I have not to this point, but if you have decided, "I'm not getting a deer fence, and my future is spraying," then a backpack sprayer, it's a battery operated sprayer that you just sit there spraying and you're not having to pump, 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 and then spray and pump, 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 and then spray is the better way to do it. There was a incredible garden about 45 minutes south of me that I could not believe they didn't have fenced, but they had the same exact reason for not doing so. They didn't want to ruin the views of the rolling Virginia countryside. And, this is congressman country. You can't ruin those senator and congressman views. So they wanted to put, nothing there and just spray, and so they all because they were minions, had backpack sprayers and would go through every couple days and spray. So, if you've decided this is your lot in life, then it pays to yeah, I think what are they, 55? I don't know, there's somewhere in there the backpack sprayers. But do store your sprayer somewhere cool because this spray is viscous and it's also made up of things that want to rot. That's the whole point of it. It has things like egg and milk and weird things in it, and it will clog up your spray nozzle if you've got it somewhere warm where mold and that type of thing wants to grow on it. So we haven't talked about the sprays we use. I use Deer Out. That works real well for me. It has a fresh minty flavor. Um, and and I also use Deer Stopper 2, and I don't know what Stopper 1 was. It was just
Not as good, obviously.
I'm really curious. That has a clove scent, and so if I alternate with those 2 and I'm consistent and I'm not away for long stretches at a time, I had much more success with that.
Deer stopper 1 or 2, I don't remember, is what we used to use as a concentrate and put it into these sprays. It was so it was such a ritual. You'd be working away in a garden, and then you smell that smell, and you hear those blowers, and you realize, "Oh, we're winding up here. Okay, time to go," because it was always the last thing we did.
And polish.
Yes.
Okay.
We went to granular on some properties. If they had dogs, we couldn't use it, but granular, which is the one we use is deer scram, and I think Abby still uses that, is very effective, and it's very expensive, but it does stay longer because it doesn't dissipate in rain nearly as quickly. It's more they say you could leave it on for 6 weeks. I don't know if that's true. We would test it out. Again, it depends on the pressure that you're having. Um, I tried at one point, I'm sure I tried, Irish Spring soap. That did not
Did
work for
you?
me.
Because
Yeah.
I've seen people put those little slivers all over the garden. I've seen them hanging, and I gotta say, I don't like the look.
No, the look was no good?
The look is just no. It's like
No.
a toilet in the backyard.
Let's not
Yeah,
together.
with flowers coming out of it, an Irish spring hanging up, except at the same time, I feel the desperation.
Yeah. I tried that, and then, the motion detectors, the motion sensors, and I did use that for the front of my house where there was no fence, and that seemed to work. Sometimes if I forgot to turn it off, it was very exciting. "Whoa, what is going on here?" "Oh, sorry, just trying to keep the deer out."
Sorry.
"Sorry."
Yeah, and one of the things that I know has been very successful for friends of mine, which I never implemented because I don't have enough sun down here to fully charge solar batteries, was to put a low wire around 3 feet that's electrified and has a scent lure in a little bottle cap hanging from that wire that has a little bit of a cotton wool in it, and then like an apple scent or something that brings, or peanut butter that brings the deer to it to scent, to smell it. They're shocked by the wire and they back up. And I have seen extensive gardens that are protected by that little one wire. The deer
Wow.
could jump over it, but they don't, because they're attracted to it from the scent, and then they back up and go a different
They're
way.
not that smart.
I never did that, like I said, because I didn't have electricity down in the main part of my garden, and I also just don't have enough sun to keep those batteries fully charged and in good shape. So that is something that is worth looking into and possibly trying. So here's the thing, Leslie. We're going to put in this expensive deer fence. It's going to solve all my problems. But I am aware there's going to be some maintenance involved in it. And one of those things I think is just, like you said, walking the perimeter and
Yeah.
making sure that it's okay. And also perhaps having to, especially up near the front of the lane there that goes along the road, maybe keeping vines and things off of it so it doesn't just become a big, tangled, ugly, horrible mess.
Yeah.
Did you have that, or were you trying to encourage the mess?
No, I wasn't, because mine wasn't strong like yours will be, so it'd be an interesting experiment to try it at some stage to see if vines are gonna come. Your fence might be able to support them, and that would possibly help with opacity, but I couldn't do that because mine was not strong enough. So when I would walk the perimeter, I had my little stepladder, and I had twisty ties, or those plastic, what do you call those plastic things that you feed
Zip
one.
ties, my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah,
You can duct tape and zip ties, you can conquer the universe.
that's what we would do to deer if we were to catch them live. "Here, honey, give me your
Oh,
little
yeah,
toes."
and a shovel.
Zip ties, my secateurs for removing any sort of vine that was wanting to climb up, because I just didn't trust that the fence would be strong enough. But zip ties really did help get it back up because gravity was pulling it down, or a deer might have tried to jump it. I don't know. It was never clear to me. I didn't have the kind of product that you are purchasing. Mine was cheap and easy, and I know that the people who have moved in reinforced at least some of it, because they're like, I don't wanna have to deal with this all the time." I was willing to deal with it, but, you could possibly have some ongoing maintenance. I would keep the guy that's installing it, I would just keep that contact. What do you think?
No, he's such a lovely man. I really, really liked him. He's a Mennonite gentleman who came down from Pennsylvania, and he brought his family because it was in the evening. He gave us a quote, and these sweet little cherubic children. I mean, obviously that sold the job right there.
Right there.
These little cherubic children, his lovely wife wandering through, playing in the creek. Yes, I was like, please take my money. I love you and your family. Come live here too. Such a sucker, but really nice guy. And I think we're going to be probably weed whacking around the bottom of the fence up by the road for a while, just
Yeah.
to keep so it doesn't look like an ugly mess. But in the back, go ahead, be an ugly mess. Vines take over, bittersweet, all the things that I've just cleared out. They're going to be back. There's no
Yeah.
undoing that. So yeah, I think I'm excited. And can I just say that there's a little bit of pressure now, a
Oh,
little pressure I recognized.
To have more of a kick-ass garden?
Yeah, a little bit. Michael keeps saying, "Oh, wow, it's gonna be exciting to see what you do with the deer fence." I'm like, "I'm still just one person. I'm working really hard." I don't this idea of, yeah, if I had the garden that I have planted right now, it would be a completely different garden. The trees that I have taken out because they've been broken in half, the shrubs that have been replaced and then just dug out, the perennials that have been eaten. If I had that garden, it'd be pretty crazy, but it's still a garden to look after. And I really am just one person and I have somebody help me, but it's so rare. I think I probably have about 80 hours of help a year.
Wow.
So yeah, so there's a little bit of pressure there. I won't deny it. I feel a little scared. Like, what am I committing to? If we put this kind of money into this fence, am I, yes. I have some thoughts.
She's so
Can you hear
happy,
my
and
desperation
yet
looking?
she's scared to death. All right, well, I think we've done a very good job on this, and we encourage you to do what you can to fight your deer, and it could be all kinds of different things depending on your situation. I am
Yeah.
very excited for Marianne. Stick around because we're gonna be talking about she's got her thumb up. We're gonna be talking about what is a great plant, and damn, I wish I planted that in just a few minutes. Hey, we got a new review on Apple Podcasts from Annie Carberry. Can I read it?
Oh, please, because it's music to my ears.
She writes, fun, period. The chemistry between these two is fantastic. They each garden differently, are not rigid, and inspire me to keep my mind open and my creative juices flowing. Love it. Hope your cocktails are flowing too. Thank you for writing, Annie. Oh, we have so much chat from our mixers on Substack, but just go there and read it. We can't keep up, right?
We do, and we have some new mixers. We got a lot of new mixers, and some of these have come in the last few weeks. So we're always trying to get to you. So if you don't hear your name read, it will be read in the future. So it just means you have to stick around. We have Zeta Swindells, Sue Van Patten, Heidi Wilson, Mary Yoder, The Road to Muddy Creek,
Okay.
which is an account on Substack, Melissa Mack, Paula Havens, and Sydney Kinser.
That's a lot.
And so
Thank
welcome
you.
to all of you. It's a lot. It is exciting. It's sort of fun to be watching this happen and metamorphosing. Yes,
Changing,
I am doing this for
changing.
a living. Changing into this really cool organic growth of gardeners. And just a couple weeks ago, one of our mixers, Jonathan Bykowski, said that he was new to the group and he was just introducing himself. And he was really pleased to be part of a larger gardening group. I think what makes this chat and the One More Sippers really cool is that you guys are here because we're not gardening to strict rules. We recognize that everybody does it differently. And what we're trying to cultivate is the curiosity and the joy in the experience. For Leslie, it's all about fun. I'm not about the fun. I'm about the joy. Okay. Fun is a roller
I just want
coaster.
to be happy. That's all I want.
So, what we mean by that is you can do it your own way. You're not going to find zealotry here. You're not going to find shame here, although we're going to
Oh,
shame
no, a
each
little bit,
other.
just a little bit,
Oh, there's going to be a little bit,
tiny
but
bit.
you could take that with a grain of salt and give it back to us.
Yeah.
So, welcome to all of you. And for those of you who are considering becoming paid mixers, we have got a fun, like we said at the beginning of the episode, we've got a really fun office party coming up next week. That's on your Substack Live.
Just a reminder for how you do this. So what is she talking about? These One More Sippers. So this is our biweekly behind a paywall small episode that we do every other week. And the way you access that is on Substack. So if you're not sure about Substack, just Google the word Substack, the garden mixer, and you can follow the directions to join up and see the fun that you're missing in between weeks, but we'll always be producing this big podcast for free. And thank you for the review on Apple. Anybody who wants to write a review, we would love that. And just a reminder that we are on YouTube and that we are one of the few gardening podcasts, maybe the only one. We try to put in a photograph of almost every plant we mention. And for this episode, it'll be a lot of photographs of fences.
And and hosta nubbed down to nothing.
Oh, God.
Oh, and you put in the notes that you wanted to mention Badger's birthday, which was very sweet of you. That
Oh,
happened
happy
last month. So I
birthday,
now have
Badger.
a year-old dog-ish puppy. He had his birthday on Remember the 5th of November, Gunpowder Treason and Plot. So he is a Guy Fawkes baby.
Nice.
Yeah, he is chasing those rabbits and rats and doing awesome at it. If you have a garden dog, why don't you send us a picture on the Garden Mixer chat? I'd love to see it.
That would be so fun. So this is a segment of the show where we talk about a plant that is doing very well for us now, and this is early December. And I have got a really good one. We get the information and we pass it on to you, not because we're saying, hey, you got to plant this, but just because you might want to. It might be something that you hadn't heard of yet, or it might be something that you want to add to your collection.
And it's looking good right now
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So you were going to go first?
All right, I will go first. Elysium parviflorum, Florida sunshine. So this is a plant delights. You just love that drink. It's all gone.
YouTubers you can watch. I'm eating Michael's really expensive cherries that I'm really annoyed that he bought. Anyway, I still have anger about this, so I'm eating a couple.
Okay.
We don't have money for cherries. I've got a deer fence to put in.
Well, you have fewer cherries now, so be less angry.
Mhm.
Don't hurt yourself.
Sorry,
Just
your
calm down.
Elysium parviflorum.
Yes, that plant. This is a plant delights intro. So they found this cultivar. The species is just grows wild in Florida, South Carolina, I think, up to South Carolina. It is zones 6A to 9B. Regular Elysium parviflorum is probably about 6 to 10 feet tall. It has medium green leaves, and it's anise.
It's not an anise, but it has a smell of anise.
It smells like anise. But this little
Yeah.
cultivar called Florida Sunshine has pale green leaves in summer going to yellow at this time. What are you doing? What? She's an orange teeth. Okay, you're gonna have to go to YouTube for that, people.
All right, go on.
She doesn't grow this plant, so she's very bored and probably jealous. I don't grow it anymore either, but I have
I
some.
used to grow it. I've been disgusted by it, but
It's a
go on.
wonderful. And here's the weird thing about this plant. Early December, it looks good, and it does. Because I'm having a little trouble concentrating. Just let me talk about my plant. The audio people don't care about your orange teeth, okay? How much bourbon did you put in that drink?
I think there was a lot of bourbon in that drink. I'm sorry.
That's all
I'm
right.
not used to bourbon. Go on. Elysium.
The foliage is round and it's smooth. And this plant does flower, but I never saw it flower. Of course, it grows very slowly. It could flower for you. Those would be yellow flowers. But it's interesting to note that when I went on the Tony Avent's Plant Delights website, they didn't talk about flowers. So this is really a foliage plant. It has lime green foliage with these round, sort of glossy leaves, about 2 inches, 3 inches across in summer. And then in the fall, it turns to yellow. Here's the kicker. In the winter, it starts to go kind of gray, ghosty, almost transparent. And it is the only plant that I am tracking that looks like doo-doo in spring. And I know this very plainly because when my house was on the Virginia Historic Garden Week, I was like, what do I do? This plant looks awful in the last week of April. And that is just what happens when an evergreen plant has old leaves that they just haven't kicked off yet. And they don't come off altogether. They just sort of, halfway through summer, you'll be like, oh, yeah, that ugly plant. And then you realize, oh, it's looking quite good now because the new leaves have come through. The other cool thing about it in winter, besides the beautiful color when everything else is looking so gray and drab, it saves its gray and drab time for spring. Luckily, you'll have other things to look at, is that the twigs, the stems become quite red. It's a slow grower. It wants shade. It wants moist, well-draining soil. It can burn out if it gets too much sun. Deer don't like it because of the anise smell, taste, and it's a fabulous plant, but you don't like it, so you talk.
No, let's be clear on this. First, I have to ask you a quick question. Is it actually losing those leaves in summer, or are they just sort of changing color a little bit and then coming back to a more of a lustrous color like a rhododendron would? It's not going to necessarily lose leaves and regrow them. It's just those old leaves are sort of going into a drab time over winter, and then in the spring they're luscious and looking good. It's not renewing all of those leaves. I'm just curious because I can't seem to get that damn thing through a season looking good. So
It won't look good in spring, and every evergreen that you've ever grown loses its leaves or needles. It just doesn't do it in a way that like a ginkgo, like, "Oh, there they go, all in one day,"
Mm.
or a maple or an oak or anything else. So, yes, those leaves are gradually replaced. They don't lose their leaves and then replace them, but the older ones are kicked off, and I assume that the really old ones, which are the ones that look pretty terrible in April when I had thousands of people come through the garden, or maybe 1,000, I exaggerate. That's when those leaves were saying, "Oh, I really need somebody to replace me," and it happens very gradually over the summer.
okay, so my deal with this plant is that I adore it. It's gorgeous, and I think you need to be in a solid zone 7 for it to not look like hell in the winter, much
Oh,
less the spring. Because in this, once it's looking good in the spring and summer, I'm all about it. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant. Smells good. Deer don't want it. For me, it really looks beaten in the winter.
late winter for sure, for me too.
Yeah. Oh, for you too. Okay. So,
Yeah,
but it is a pretty cool plant. It's worth knowing about and possibly growing as long as you're not in 5B. Sorry, Aaron Shannon. This stem I wish I planted it is not for you this week because I'm doing pyracantha. Pyracantha. And this is in honor of just going back recently to California and thinking about the pyracantha to my parents' house and the pyracantha that used to snake up the chimney. At this time of year, we just used to take so many berries off of that thing for indoor decorations, and it's so beautiful. And so, in honor of that pyracantha, I started to grow it here. And I grow Mojave, which is an orange red berried shrub and Teton, which is more of a yellow goldy orange. I also grow silver lining, which is a
yeah. I
variegated.
do too, remember?
It's not Pyracantha coccinea. Oh, that's right, you do have that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really berry. It berries a very small amount. It flowers a very small amount, but it's not really about those berries. And when I say berries, these are not technically berries. They're actually palms. They are in that category with apples and pears where they have that hard center and the flesh around the center. So it's almost like a crab apple, all these little clusters of tiny little crab apples or that type of thing. I mean, that's just nerdy nonsense you probably don't need to know about.
They look like berries.
Yeah, those big trusses, those big clusters of berries are gorgeous. This plant needs sun. It will eventually support its own weight as it's climbing because it is extremely woody, extremely thorny,
Oh my god. It's
and
violent.
it's violently
It
thorny.
is. I mean, each of those things is a it should be classified and certified as a weapon. You should have to get
And
a license
you
to
just slap
carry
it around
they're
at
like
people.
over an inch long. They're crazy big.
Yeah, they are, but I love the fact that it supports its own weight. I mean, I would say like 1 tie-in or 2 tie-ins would allow it. I mean, because it could, come off and flop onto you and kill you
Oh,
actually through the eyeball.
exactly.
Um, it's a plant for that deals with poor soils and drought really well, although it can cope in moisture. I have been told that it does better on the acidic side, but I don't know. My Mojave is in dire shape, I gotta say,
Oh,
because scale has gotten to it.
wow.
And when I say scale has gotten to it, all up and down the main stem of it. And because I have been a wimp and I haven't taken harsh, decisive action and cut it down to the base and allowed just it to be smaller. I didn't want to lose all of that 12-foot, 13-foot, 15-foot growth I have. I still have a pathetic looking pyracantha on the side of my house instead of the beautiful, majestic thing that was on my parents' chimney. The moral of this story, children, is be harsh. If I had cut that back 2 years ago when I thought about it, actually, it's more like 4 years ago.
And now you have scale on a grand scale, which is sad.
Very funny. Ta-dum.
I'll be here all week.
But in other news, on the other side of the house, which is much more south facing, much more beautiful, lots of sun, it's doing great. And it's not Mojave, it's Teton, and that one is doing beautifully. Silver lining's doing beautifully. So this is a great shrub. But really, zone 6 to 9, and the 6 is a little marginal. And
So the best place that I saw that grown was when we built the school that we worked for over 30 years, built a new wing, and there was this perfect place for teenage boys to cut through what they wanted to preserve as a place for a lawn. And guess what they lined that with? Pyracantha. Those boys did not cut through. They did not want to die.
Pyracantha or Poncirus, the gardener's friend. Yeah, that's those are the two. Let nature do the hurting for you. So hopefully, listeners, in the spring, I'm going to cut that bad boy back. So in 2 years, I won't be talking about this again. But it really is a beautiful shrub. Just to make a note, NC State Extension Service did mention when I was looking at it today that they list it as possibly invasive in California, where my parents had it, Texas, and Georgia. However, and I really appreciated this from NC State, that they said it has been mentioned as invasive, but that has not been substantiated. And I
Oh.
really liked that because a lot of people are throwing out, it's invasive, it's invasive. And what they mean is it's aggressive and it's not a native. That's the subtext. And if it's been substantiated that it's actually truly invasive, that's a very different thing. So well done, NC State, for making that distinction.
Quick reminder that we're having our Substack Live Christmas party. Wear your funny hat. And Simone, we're never doing this cocktail again because this was quite the garden mixer, and Marianne should possibly not have made that whole drink. Okay, we will see you next time.